Okay. Our next topic is the penetration of the pathogen within the plant body. Now, as you know, we are studying the molecular basis of infection, which is the part of your first chapter, that is the microbiology and the plant pathology. Now, regarding this, we have studied the two aspects behind it. First, the transfer of the pathogen to the host, and once it reaches to the host, how it identifies the host, that host in there is in their range. Okay. Now, the third topic we are going to see is the penetration of the pathogen. If you directly come on this topic, please consider checking the first topic and the second topic, and then and only then you should consider for this particular topic, that is the penetration of the pathogen within the body of an plant. Okay, as you know, we have studied that how first pathogen traveled to their original place and it landed on the plant surface. Now, once it landed on the plant surface, it will literally check out whether the host is in their range or not. Okay, if it is in their range, then at this point of moment, this particular pathogen will try to enter into this particular plant. Now, how it is going to enter, how it is going to penetrate within the plant body, this is all about today's topic. Okay, so we will understand what are the different mechanisms of the penetration of the pathogen within the plant body. Now, consider this is your syllabus. We are dealing with the paper number 1 and the chapter number 1, that is microbiology and the plant pathology. Okay, and we are here at the molecular basis of the infection. Okay, now consider the first slide. See, the pathogen penetrates the plant surface by the three methods. Actually, there are basically three methods. We can classify all of the methods which are possessed by these pathogens to enter into the plant, and they can be placed into the three different categories. The very first is the direct penetration of the cell wall. That is, if the pathogen land on the plant surface, it can readily break its cell wall and can enter into the internally into the cell. Okay, that is the direct penetration through the cell wall. Then there is a second possibility, that is through the natural openings. As you know, the natural openings are different types of openings which are found within the plant body. For example, there is a stomata, right? There is a lenticels. These are types of the natural openings are there, and through these natural openings the pathogen can enter within the plant body. Then there is a third method, that is through the wounds. Okay, if the plant is got injured somehow, okay, if the plant is got injured due to one or the another reason, in that case it becomes very easy for the pathogen to get enter, because in such a case there will not be any barrier of the cell wall, or they don't have to look out for the stomata or the lenticels. They just have to enter because there is an open area within the plant body, and hence it is very easy to penetrate internally within the plant. So basically, if you want to write the answer in a UPSC mains, that you should remember three things, that how pathogen is going to enter into the plant body. The very first is by breaking the cell wall. The second is through the natural openings like stomata or the lenticels, and third through the wounds or the injury. Okay, now in case the stomata, you know, the stomata are majority of the time were found in the leaves, while the lenticels are part of the stem, fruits, etc. Okay, so these are types of the openings were placed differently on the different plants. It will all depend on which type of plants we are talking about. Okay, so you have to remember there were the three techniques through which this particular pathogen can enter within the plant body. Now, when we say pathogen, we are not only considering the fungi, we are also considering the bacteria, viruses, viroids. Okay, all of the disease causing organisms like the nematodes, like the mycoplasma. Okay, all of these we will take, we will consider them simultaneously within this particular pathogen range. Okay, so these are three methods are there through which these particular pathogens can enter within the plant body. Now, some fungi penetrates the tissue in only one of these ways. Okay, that is, out of these three ways, only the one is preferred by some of the fungi, while the others use more than one. Okay, sometimes there are some fungi which can use the wound to enter into the plant, which can use the natural opening. Okay, more than one type of the method can be used by the some fungi, but there are some fungi which will typically restrict themselves to the one of the method which is given here. Okay, so it is also different from fungi to fungi, that how it is going to enter within the plant body. It may take 2 to 3 ways to enter into the plant body, or it may restrict to the only one. Okay, now the bacteria can enter within the plant body mostly through the wounds and less frequently through the natural openings, while never directly through the unbroken cell walls. Okay, so here one thing you have to remember, it's very important from the answer writing point of view, that the bacteria, when we consider bacteria and bacteria want to enter within the plant body, then it is majority of the time it is going to take the injury way or the wound way. Okay, if the plant is got wounded, this is the real way of the bacteria to get enter within the plant body, while sometimes they can also prefer the natural openings like the stomata or the lenticels, but they never broke open the cell wall. Okay, they cannot penetrate the unbroken cell walls. This point becomes very, very important, that the bacteria do not have ability to break the cell walls of the plant and enter within the plant body. So they never take this particular way of breaking the cell wall. Through which technique they enter within the plant body? The very basic technique they possess to enter within the plant body is to find the wound within the plant body, and through that wound they will frequently enter into the plant body, but they less frequently will take the stomata or the lenticels way to enter within the plant body, and never ever they will go for breaking the cell walls. Okay, they cannot unbroken the cell walls, and they do not have this ability, and hence they cannot take that particular way. Okay, so when we talk about the fungi, they may take one or two methods, and when we talk about the bacteria, they will always prefer the wound, right? Sometimes the natural openings, and never the unbroken cell walls. Now the viruses, viroids, and the bacteria and the protozoans, they were entered through the wounds made by the vectors. Okay, now see, majority of the time, when pathogen were transferred from their original place to the host, they were transferred by the host, they were transferred by the vectors. Vectors are majority of the time insects. These insects carry these organisms, like for example, the viruses, viroids, bacteria, and the protozoa. These are present on the body of the insect, and these insects regularly visit the plant, and indirectly, these insects act as a vectors. And once they act as a vectors, they transport the very pathogen from their original place onto the plant body. So here, of course, within the viruses range, or the viroids, or the bacteria, or the protozoates, the vectors are primary means of transferring to the original place on the plant, and these vectors in turn create the injury within the plant body, and hence they were able to get within the plant body. So here you should understand the vectors play a very important role, because they are not only transferring the pathogen right from its original place to the host, but it also creating the wound within the plant body, so that the viruses, viroids, or the bacteria, or the protozoites can enter within the plant body. So it is the facilitation which is created by the vectors. Vector facilitates the infection. So these are vectors which are majority of the time insects, and as you know, insects are typically feeding on the plant. Okay, they typically feeds on the plant, and hence in the feeding process they literally injure the plant, and hence the transmission of these pathogens becomes very, very easy. Okay, now all through there are some viruses, and the viroids may also enter through the wounds made by the tools and the other means. Okay, so basically, if humans are using the tools, and these tools are indirectly injuring these plants, then also these viruses and viroids can enter, but majority of the time this happens due to the vector creating the injury within the plant body. So here you should understand, when we talk about the viruses, viroids, bacteria, or the protozoans, we are literally talking about the wound infection transmission, and this wound infection is created by the vectors majority of the time, and sometimes by the human as well. When we use the different tools, we directly or indirectly injure the plant, and once we injure the plant, it break opens, and it creates the way for the virus, viroids, bacteria, or the protozoa to get enter within the plant body. But at a first place, it is primarily done by the vectors. They were not only transferring the pathogen, but they also facilitate the infection by creating the wound within the plant body. Now these parasitic higher plants where they enter the host through the direct penetration. Okay, while when we talk about the parasitic plants, we have talked about the parasitic plant in a previous our lectures, right? We have taken the example of a cuscuta. They can enter within their host by the direct penetration. Okay, because they were itself also the plant, and they were possessing that particular mechanism that they can create the wound by themselves. Okay, once the parasitic plant come in contact with the host, they do not require any type of injury, but they can directly penetrate within the plant body. Okay, so this is how the viruses, viroids, bacteria, and the protozoa are literally get into the plant, while the parasitic plants possess their own way by the direct penetration. While we talk about the nematodes they enter into the plants by the direct penetration. Okay, and sometimes through the natural opening. So nematode being they possess their own ability to injure the plant and create the wound, and they can create the direct penetration way. They can create their own way to enter into the plant, and sometimes they were also using the natural openings like the stomata or the lenticels. Okay, so here the nematode possesses the different ability to enter within the plant body, while on the other hand, when we talk about the viruses, viroids, bacteria, and protozoan, they require the vector, and vector sometimes facilitate the infection. And then we have already talked about the fungi, that how they sometimes they take one method, or they sometimes take the different methods. Okay, so basically, while writing the answer in the UPSC mains, you have to remember, you have to compare between between the fungi, then you should go for the bacteria, then for the viruses, then for the viroids, then for the protozoa and the nematode. Okay, all of these type of the organisms you should consider while writing down your answer. Okay, if the question is if the question is asked in a general way, that is how the pathogen is going to penetrate within the plant body. Okay, so there are basically three ways to enter within the plant body, and which way is going to selected by the pathogen, it will all depend on which type of pathogen we are talking about. If you are talking about fungi, bacteria, then they will take the different route. For the viroids, viruses, protozoans or the nematode, there will be the different mechanism of the infection. Okay, now consider, see, the penetration does not always lead to the infection. Now this is important, very very important, that if the penetration has occurred, it will always not result in the disease formation or the infection. See, many organisms actually penetrate the cells of the plant that are not susceptible to these organisms, and they do not become diseased. Okay, that is the, these are pathogen enter within the plant body, and once they enter within the plant body, they were simply not causing any disease, because these plants are not susceptible to that particular pathogen. So entering of the pathogen or presence of the pathogen internally within the plant body does not signify that it is going to cause any infection or the disease. It will depend on the host range. Okay, once inside, it will at that time it can also decide whether it is in the host range or not, and there also this particular infection can get stopped. Going inside or having successful penetration, that doesn't mean that there is going to be the infection within the plant body. Okay, now these organisms cannot proceed beyond the stage of penetration and die without producing any disease. So once inside the plant, these pathogens will eventually going to die, and after the death, this infection will stop here. So penetration, it does not literally mean that infection is going to occur. It will all depend on pathogen and the host type of interaction. If the suitable host and the pathogen is not there, then they will simply enter within the plant body and die in the process. Okay, and after the death, there will not be any infection. So literally, the penetration does not mean the infection. Now, the very first method we are going to understand about the penetration of pathogen within the plant body is the direct penetration. As you know, direct penetration it will involve the breakage of cell wall. Okay, cell wall should get break so that there can be the entry of a pathogen within the plant body. Now, through the intact plant surface is the probably the most common type of penetration by the fungi, oomycetes and the nematodes. Okay, and only the some type of penetration by the parasitic higher plants. Okay, it's the only type of the entry of the parasitic plant within the another plant. So basically, this route of the direct penetration by breaking the cell wall is acquired by the fungi. Okay, fungi take this route, then the oomycetes take this route, then the nematodes are there which can break the open the cell wall and have the direct penetration. And of course, it is the only way for the parasitic higher plants. Okay, all of the parasitic higher plants are there. These parasitic higher plants will only take the direct penetration way of entering within the plant body. So when we talk about the first method of the direct penetration, in which the pathogen has to break the cell wall of the host plant, then in such a range we have the fungi, oomycetes, then the nematodes and the all of the parasitic higher plants. Okay, they will take the direct penetration mechanism and they will break open the healthy cells, and after breaking open, they will enter within the plant body. For doing this, they will require, of course, require the different types of the enzymes, different types of the mechanism, different types of the structure within their mouth. Okay, if you are talking about the nematode, they were possessing the different type of structure to break open the cell wall, right? So in the fungi, they will produce the different types of the germ tubes to break open this, right? And parasitic higher plant produce the very similar kind of the plant structure to break open the cell walls, right? So direct penetration is favored by the fungi, oomycetes, nematodes, and all of the parasitic higher plants. Okay, none of the pathogens can enter the plant by the direct penetration. Okay, while rest of the pathogen, okay, none of the other pathogens apart from these pathogens they cannot enter through the direct penetration, because viruses cannot make the direct penetration, viroids cannot make the direct penetration, and hence other pathogens will always require some different kind of entry within the plant body. But the direct penetration is only achieved by the fungi, oomycetes, nematodes, okay, and the parasitic higher plants, right? Now, see, fungi that penetrates their host plant directly are called as the hemibiotrophic. Okay, this term is important to enhance your answer in the UPSC maths. Okay, whatever the fungi that can directly penetrate within the plant body, that is, they have the ability to break open the cell wall, and after breaking open the cell wall, they will enter within the plant body. Then such a type of fungi, it is called as the hemibiotrophic fungi. That is the non-obligate parasitic ones. Okay, so do so through the fine hypha produced directly by the spores. Okay, so whatever the spores which are landed upon the plant body, these spores will directly create the fine hypha, and these fine hypha will literally break the cell wall and after breaking the cell wall, they can enter within the plant body internally. Okay, so such a type of the fungi are called as the hemibiotrophic type of the fungi, that is the non-obligate type of the parasitics. Okay, then there is other kind of the fungi such as the obligate parasitic ones. Okay, they do so the penetration peg produced through the aprosorium, and you know we have talked about the aprosorium in the last video lecture. This aprosorium will create the fine fungi hypha, and this aprosorium will break open the cell wall of the host plant and enter within the plant body. So basically, depending upon which type of the fungi is involved, we have two types of fungi here. The very first is the non-obligate parasitic type of the fungi, and second is the obligately parasitic type of the fungi. Okay, in the one, the spores are involved, while in the other, the aprosorium structure is involved. Okay, so basically, you have to remember the fungi can penetrate within the plant body, and they can penetrate within this plant body directly. Okay, direct penetration is there for the fungi, and in that category we have the two types: the hemibiotrophic, that is the non-obligate parasitic types of the fungi, which can produce the fine hypha through the spores, and then we have the obligately parasite type of the fungi, in which there is a production of the aprosporium structure, and through this aprosporium then the fine structure is produced, which will help the fungi to get enter within the plant body. Okay, so remember these two types. Now the fine hypha or the aprosorium, okay, if we take both of the possibility, that is the fine hypha and the aprosorium, is formed at the point of contact of the germ tube with the plant surface. Now once this aprosorium or say hypha, it creates the germ tube, this germ tube will literally enter within the plant surface. Okay, so basically after the spore formation, after spore germination, there will be the formation of germ tube, and this germ tube first can create the aprosporium, and later it will create the another structure. But this germ tube can directly enter within the plant body as well, as we have considered in the fine hypha case, or it can produce the aprosporium, which will create the latter structure to enter within the plant body. Now this fine hypha will grow towards the plant surface, and it pierces the cuticle and the cell wall through the mechanical force. See the exact mechanism. See, for example, this is the spore, and this spore has created the germ tube. Now this germ tube will literally come in a contact with the plant cell, and as you know, plant cell is the eukaryotic cell which possesses the cell wall, plus in the epidermis the cuticle is also present there. Okay, so this particular germ tube which is created, this germ tube will pierce by the mechanical force into the cuticle. First it will break the cuticle, right? Then it will break the cell wall. So the cuticle got break, cell wall got break, and the particular hyphae is go within the plant body internally. Okay, so here the hypha, the fine hypha, which is coming from the spore, it can create the mechanical pressure or mechanical tension on the cuticle and the cell wall, and in the process there is a breakage of the cuticle and the cell wall, and hence these particular hyphae will able to get within the plant body. Now, and they along with the mechanical force, they were also producing the different types of the enzymes, and these enzymes play a very major role in softening the cuticle and the cell wall. Okay, so cell walls softening is occurred due to the enzyme production, while the mechanical force of the germ tube is also there, and both of these factors are responsible for breaking open the cell by breaking its cuticle as well as its cell wall. Okay, now see, most of the fungi, however, they form the aprosorium, as we have seen in the second condition. Okay, what they will create, they, after the spore germination, they will create the germ tube, and this germ tube will create the network of the hyphae, and this network of the hyphae is called as the aprosorium. Now, once the aprosporium is got created, at the end of the germ tube, as you know, this is the germ tube, and at the end of the germ tube, the aprosporium is got created. It usually being the bulbous and the cylindrical. Okay, as you can see in this picture, it is bulbous or the cylindrical in structure with a flat surface in a contact with the surface of the host plant. So this is the flat surface. Okay, and below here we have the epidermis. Okay, epidermal cells. See, this is the cuticle, and this is the epidermal cell. Okay, so this flat surface of the aprosporium come in a contact with the plant surface, and this plant surface possesses this a particular aprosporium contact, and from here the entry or the infection proceeds. Now then this particular penetration peg grows from the flat surface of the aprosporium towards the host and it pierces the cuticle and the cell wall. So basically from this aprosporium, a peg-like structure grows, okay, like this. Peg-like structure grows and it will literally break out the cuticle and the cell wall. And after breaking the cuticle and the cell wall, they can literally enter within the plant body. So this is how the two types of the fungi are there, in which the one creates the spore, and out of the spore there is a germ tube, and in the second the spore is creating germ tube, but at the end of the germ tube they will create the cylindrical structure which is called as the aprosporium, and this aprosporium will produce the peg like structure which can pierce the cell wall of the pathogen or cell wall of the host plant. Okay, so these are two types of the methods which are followed by the fungi. You have to remember very carefully, because in the mains examination you have to differentiate between these two methods. Okay, then and only then your answer will become attractive. All right, now consider, see, the penetration peg then grows into the fine hypha. Okay, once it is inside the cell, then it will create the fine hyphae. Okay, like this fine vegetative structures which are called as the hypha within the fungal plant body. These are fine hyphae can be created from these pegs, and generally they are much smaller in diameter than the normal hypha. Okay, whatever the hypha which is growing from the peg, it is different from the normal hypha which grows within the fungi body. Okay, but it regains its normal diameter once it is inside the cell. Okay, so it is a normal very smaller than the normal kind of the hypha, but once it enter within the plant body and it starts to consume the resources of the host plant, it will grow into the normal hypha. Okay, that is, it will create the much similar structures which are produced by the fungi. Then you should remember here the peg, the first going to create the hypha which are the smaller in diameter, but once inside the plant body, once it is present inside the plant body, this hypha will literally grow into the normal fungi like body. Okay, now in most of the fungal diseases, the fungi penetrates the plant's cuticle and the cell wall. Okay, we have seen this in a both type. They were piercing the cuticle and the cell wall through the mechanical force and by the enzymatic activity. But in some cases, such as the apple scab, the fungus penetrates only the cuticle and stays between the cuticle and the cell wall. See, this is very interesting case. And the apple scab is also a very common disease, common crop disease, okay, and which is caused by the fungi. Now, in this case, what happens? See, this is the interesting case. Here, the particular spore is creating the germ tube, and after creating the germ tube, it will try to break first cuticle, and below cuticle we have the plant cells. Okay, so this is the cuticle, and below we have the plant cells. So here it is able to break out the cuticle but not the cell wall. So they will always be stay within this region, okay, on the upper region of the plant, and they cannot enter within the plant body. So in case of the apple scab, you will find there is a penetration of the fungal hyphae, but to the cuticle level only. Okay, and it will always stay between the cuticle and the cell wall, and the infection will remain restricted to that area only, and it will not proceed further within the host plant. Okay. So here is the typical example of the apple scab. You should carefully remember, because it is an exception. Okay, it is not like the other two possibilities which we have studied, that in which there is a breaking of the cuticle as well as the cell wall. Okay, but here the apple scab will always break the cuticle, but it will not be able to break the cell wall, and hence it has to remain in between the cuticle and the cell wall. Okay, now this direct penetration is also done by the nematodes. Okay, we have studied the fungi. Now this direct type of the penetration can also be done by the nematode. Now it is accomplished by the repeated back and forth thrust by its stylets. Okay, as you know, this is the nematode, and you know this is the stylet structure within the nematode. Okay, within their mouth. So this is a stylet structure. There is a repeated back and forth thrust which is done by this particular stylet, which will create the which will break the cuticle as well as the cell wall of the plant. Okay, so hence here the cell wall is get break in the process, cuticle is got break in the process, and the primary organ which is used by the nematode is the stylet. Now this stylet is a very important structure for the nematode, because it is going to create the hole within the plant body. Now, once it creates the hole within the plant body by breaking the cuticle and the cell wall, they can readily enter within the plant body. So you can say, as compared to the fungi, the nematode find it very easy, because they possess the very simple structure which is called as stylet, and they just have to give the mechanical force and after giving the mechanical force, they can break open the cells and they can enter easily. Okay, now such a thrust is finally create a very small opening in the cell wall. Once there is a creation of the small opening within the cell wall, they can readily enter within the cell wall. Now these nematodes then can insert the stylet into the cell or into and or the entire nematode can enter within the cell. So it can facilitate the whole of the nematode to go inside the cells. Okay, so you can say the nematodes possess their own mechanism. Okay, they do not require any other type of the vectors or any other type of the help. Okay, and it is also not like of the fungi, because fungi first has to create the germ tube, then germ tube has to produce some kind of enzyme, then after the enzyme there should be some mechanical force as well, so that there can be the breakage in the cuticle and the cell wall. But here the nematode directly they have the possession of the stylets, and they use the stylet to create the hole within the plant body, and hence they can easily enter within the cell. Okay, so the second method we are going to see regarding the entry of a pathogen within the plant body is the penetration through the wounds. Okay, if the plant is got injured, okay, and if it has an injury, it has a break open itself already, then how or which type of the pathogens are going to enter within the plant body. Okay, now see, all the bacteria, most fungi and some viruses and all viroids can enter the plant through the various types of the wounds. So please remember that all type of the bacteria prefer this type of the way, that if there is a breakage, if there is a wound, the bacteria can enter within the plant body. Then most type of the fungi are also there which can enter within the plant body if there is a injury. Then some viruses are there and all of the viroids are there which use this particular way of entering within the plant body. So all bacteria, most fungi, some viruses and all the viroids are able to use the or you can say are able to exploit the wound to enter within the plant body. Now, some viruses and all mollusks and fastidious vascular bacteria and protozoas enter within the plant body through the wound made by their vectors. So, they are also entering within the plant by using the wounds, but these wounds are created by the vectors. Okay, so there are some viruses which requires vectors to create wounds, and while there are some viruses which can enter within the plant body if there is already a wound. Okay, then all type of the molecules, then the fastidious vascular bacteria and the protozoa, they will always require the vectors to create the wound within the plant body so that they can enter within the plant body. So you should be able to compare between the two methods, that is the direct penetration and the penetration through the wounds. When we say about the wounds or the injury, this injury is can be created due to the mechanical force like the air, rain, temperature, sunlight. Okay, or it can be created by the any grazing animal as well. So there are many reasons why there is a creation of the injury within the plant body. This injury can also be created by the vector. So vectors can create the injury, then the abiotic factors can create the injury, or there are many biotic factors such as the grazing animal, they can also create the injury. And once the injury is there, then all type of the bacteria, some fungi, some viruses and all type of the viroids can enter within these particular plant structures. Okay, now see, the wounds are utilized by the bacteria and the fungi, maybe fresh or old. Okay, this does not mean the fresh wound is always required. If there is a old wound, this old wound or the fresh wound, both types of the wounds can be actually utilized by the bacteria and the fungi. Okay, they maybe consist of the killed tissues. Okay, if the tissues are already killed, then this type of the wounds can also be utilized. Or if there is a fresh wounding of the plant or the injury within the plant, then that injury can also be exploited by the bacteria and the fungi. Okay, now these pathogens may grow briefly on such a tissue before they advance into the healthy tissue. That is, they can utilize the dead tissue or the killed tissue, and then they will go for the healthy tissue. So basically, what we want to say here is that it doesn't matter if there is a fresh wound or it doesn't matter if there is a old wound. Both types of the wounds can be utilized by the bacteria and the fungi. They can survive on the dead tissue and they can later proceed for the healthy tissue. Now, this death of the tissue, why this occurs? Okay, what are the factors that there is a injury within the plant body? Okay, why there is a creation of the wound within the plant body? Okay, then you will realize there are many components which are responsible for this particular injury or the wound. See, death of the tissue may be the result of the environmental factors, right? See, such as the wind breakage. If there is a too fast wind, this fast wind can create breakage within the plant body. Then here, if there is a health condition, in the health condition as well, many plants got injured. Then there is animal feeding, which is responsible for creation of the dead tissue, right? That is the insect and the large animals. They were typically herbivores are dependent on the plants, and once they consume the plant, they left the plant injured. right? So environmental factors plus the biotic factor, that is the abiotic factor as well as the biotic factors, both are involved in injuring the plant and creating the dead tissue within the plant body. Now cultural practices of the humans also likes to cut open the plant, okay, such as the pruning, then the transplanting, then the harvesting, right? So self-inflicted injuries are also there. So human activities or the anthropogenic activities are also responsible for breaking open these particular plants. Then there are the leaf scares, then the wounds, then the lesions are which are caused by the other pathogens as well. So basically, we are saying the wounds can be created within the plants by the abiotic factors, by the biotic factors. There are many ways where the plant will get injured, and once the plant is getting injured, this can be this particular plant can be exploited by the many type of the fungi, many type of the bacteria or the viruses or the viroids. Okay, so injury within the plant body by create can be created by using any of these following methods. Okay, now see, the bacteria and fungi penetrating through the wounds, they germinate and multiply in the wound sap or in the film of the rain or within the dew water present within the wound. Okay, for example, if there is a plant and it has a break open, okay, here, and here the fungus or the bacteria were placed, then this fungus or bacteria can readily absorb the whatever the sap which is present within the plant body, and they can germinate, they can increase their number. At the same time, if the water droplet is there within the thin film of this water droplet, they can even grow. Okay, dew water are present, and in this dew water they can also grow. So basically, once there is a wound, it becomes very easy for the bacteria and fungi to grow there because they can extract the sap from the plant. They can hold to the plant body by to the dead tissue or to the film of a rain dew or film in the film of the rain or in the dews. Okay, water which is present around the wound, this wound. Okay, subsequently the pathogen invades the adjacent plant cell because the wound is already happened, and if the one cell is got injured, the other will came in contact of it, and other cells, other healthy cells will also subsequently get wounded. In this way, this bacteria will rapidly multiply, or this fungi will rapidly clear the hypha or the mycelium. Okay, so this way the pathogen will proceed internally within the plant body, or it secretes the enzyme and the toxin that kills and macerate the nearby cells. Okay, once within the plant body, these fungi can produce the many kinds of the toxins. Okay, bacteria are also able to produce many kinds of the chemicals. These chemicals and toxins can kill the nearby cells, and once they kill the nearby cells, they can feed upon that cells as well. So basically, the wound is there. Okay, maybe rainwater is there, dew water is there. This will all facilitate the development of the bacteria and the fungi. Okay, once they are inside the cell, they can consume the wound sap, and after consuming that particular cell, they can infect the other healthy cells as well by producing the different types of toxins, and in the process they will kill all the cells. Okay, and hence we see often on the plants that there is a killing or whole killing of the leaves. Okay, if you carefully observe the plant, there you will see there is a yellowing of the leaves, there is a complete distortion of the leaves. Okay, all this happens due to the wound which is created through the biotic as well as the abiotic factors. Now the penetration of the viruses or the molecules at the fastidious bacteria and the protozoas through the wounds, it will depend on the deposition of these pathogens by their vectors. Okay, we have discussed this in the previous slide that in this case the vectors are required. Okay, and you know many insects are there. Many insects are there which can be helpful for transferring these particular viruses, molecules, fastidious bacteria or the protozoa to their destination. Now these vectors are not only transferring the pathogen to the host, but they were also creating the injury within the plant body. Now, once there is a fresh wounds created at the time of the inoculation, they can actually create the very facilitated way for the virus, molecules, or the fastidious bacteria or the protozoa to enter within the plant body. So, vectors are creating the double damage here. They were not only taking the pathogens from one place to the another place, they at the same time they are creating the injury within the plant body. So this is the double damage from the plant side point of view. Okay, so here vectors are taking the pathogen to the plants, and vector itself is creating the wound, fresh wounds within the plant body, and hence these pathogens are able to enter within the plant body. Now all of these four types of the pathogens are transmitted by the certain types of the insects. Okay, insects are majority of the time insects are there which are transferring all of these four types of the pathogens. So you can say within the living kingdom, the pathogens are typically transferred by the insects to the plant bodies. So basically, if you want to avoid the infection, we should first avoid the vectors which act as the insects which are act as vectors. So if we are able to contain the insects, then we can actually stop the spreading of the disease within the plant body. Now, some viruses are also transmitted by the certain nematodes. Okay, so there are some examples where the nematodes are carrying the viruses. So as you know, nematodes, how they create the injury within the plant body by the direct penetration, and once the a wound is created, not only the nematode is causing disease here, but this nematode is also possessing the viruses on its body, and these viruses are causing the secondary infections as well. So there are two types of infection. The very first is the nematode infection, and second is the viruses infection. Okay, then the not only the nematodes, then the mats are there, fungi are there, they are also carrying the some kind of viruses. Now some viruses and the viruses are transmitted to the wounds made by the human hands and the tools. So in the agricultural field, majority of the time humans directly or indirectly injure the plant. Then in such a case, the viruses and viroids can get transmitted within the plant body. So these wounds can be created through the many ways we have discussed that. But here the special thing you have to remember, the vectors, majority of the time insects, they are really facilitating this type of the infections by not only transferring the pathogen to the host, but also by creating the wound within the host itself. The very fresh wound is utilized by the viruses, malicious, then the fastidious bacteria and the protozoans. Okay, and there are certain kinds of the nematodes, mites, and the fungi which are also taking the viruses within the plant body, hence creating the primary as well as the secondary infection. Okay, and anthropogenic activities are also there which are creating the wounds, which also facilitates the infection. Now let us consider the third type, which is called as the penetration through the natural openings. As you know, there are many natural openings within the plant body, such as the hydatodes are there, lenticels are there, stomatas are there. All of these are the natural openings within the plant body. As you can see, this is the external surface of the plant, and this is an epidermal cells, and within these epidermal cells, you will see the natural openings in the form of stomata. So these are natural openings can be utilized by the pathogen to enter within the plant body. See, many fungi and the bacteria enter the plant body through the stomata, and some of them are entered through the hydatodes as well, by the nectarthodes or by the lenticels. So fungi and bacteria are very famous to utilize these natural openings like the stomata, but sometimes they will also exploit the hydathode structure, then the nectarthodes as well as the lenticels. Then the stomata are most numerous on the lower side of the leaves. We have discussed this in our anatomy lectures, that the lower side of the leaves will always contain the more stomata when it compared with the upper side. So these lower side of the plant size leaves is always more susceptible for the infection than the upper side. Okay, and are open in the daytime, but are more or less closed during the night time, because you know, during the daytime the plant is always involved in the process of photosynthesis, because there is availability of sunlight. Okay, and when there is a photosynthesis, there should be the involvement of a stomata, because the stomata is the primary structure where there is the exchange of gases taking place. Okay, so exchange of gases takes place through the stomata, and hence it is absolutely required in the process of photosynthesis. And this particular process of photosynthesis occurs in the daytime, and hence in during the daytime, majority of the time this stomata remains open. Okay, but during the night time, when the photosynthesis stops, these the stomatas are closed. Now this will have indirect effect on the pathogen, because during the daytime these pathogens can enter within the plant body because the stomatas are open. Okay, but during night time, this chance of getting enter within the plant body is very less, because stomatas are closed. So the opening and closing of stomata will also facilitate, or it can also inhibit the infection. Okay, so natural openings are there in the form of stomata, in the form of hydathodes, in the form of nectarthodes or the lenticels, and these natural openings are exploited by the pathogens like the fungi and the bacteria. But here we have to also remember that these natural openings are like the stomata, they were open majority of the time during the day and closed during the night time. Now bacteria which is present within the film of water over the stoma, and if the water is soaking occurs, they can swim through the stoma easily. Okay, now see, this is the stomata, and in this stomata, if there is a thin film of water, okay, due to the rainwater or the dew water, if the bacteria were present within this water droplets, and if this water is got sucked out by these stomata and this water go inside the plant, then this water can easily take these bacteria along with that water within the plant body, and once within the plant body they can create the infection. So the water plays an important role, or you can say it's an abiotic type of the vector which is carrying the bacteria right from the outer side of the plant surface to the inner side of the plant surface, internal to the plant body. Now into the substomatal cavity where they can multiply and start the infection. Once inside within the substomatal cavity, they can increase their number and they can spread the infection internally within the plant body. So through the stomata, it is very easy to go inside the plant by using the water as a abiotic vector. Okay, so fungal spores are generally germinate on the plant surface. Once they land on the plant surface, these fungal spore will germinate to create the germ tube, right? And the germ tube may then grow through the stomata. So this germ tube, by growing, they can literally go through the stomata like this. Okay, so the spore remain outside, but this germ tube is getting inside through the stomatas. Okay, if the stomata is open, then this germ tube can enter within the stoma, and frequently, however, the germ tube forms the aprasporium. Okay, then there is a second type of way. We already know it, that it is going to create the aprasporium, and then aprasporium is going to create the structure which will enter within the stomata, right? That fits tightly over the stoma, and usually a fine hypha grows from it into the stoma. So it is like this. For example, the spore is landed here, and the germ tube is created in this way. Okay, here is the germ tube creation. Now here the aprasporium is got created over the opening of the stoma. Okay, and it is tightly fitting into the stoma, and then it will create the peg-like structure which will grow into the fine hyphae within the plant body. Okay, so this is how the fungal spores can germinate and grow within the plant body internally. All right, now in a substomatal cavity, the hypha enlarges. Okay, once it is inside the substomatal cavity, the hypha will enlarge and it will grow into the several small hyphae. That is the whole structure of the hyphae, or the vegetative parts of the plant, is what created through this process, that actually invades the cells of the host plant directly or by means of the haustoria. So later infection and the various parts of the fungi like the haustoria are created once the fungi is present in the substomatal cavity. Then afterwards it becomes easy for the pathogen to invade the plants internally, right? Now see, all through some fungi can apparently penetrate even the closed stomata. Others penetrate the stomata only while they are open. Okay, so there are some fungi, they can utilize the closed stomata as well for the infection, but majority of the time the opening of the stomata is required for the infection. Okay, so the whether it is a closed stomata or the open stomata, in both the ways the infection can proceed through the fungi, but you will find example in both the category. Even if the stomata is closed, then still there is a infection by the fungi, and if the stomatas are open, then also you will find there is a infection by the fungi. Now certain fungi, for example the powdery mildew fungi, they grow over open stomata without entering them. Okay, this is the peculiar example like the apple's cap, that these powdery mildew fungi, they will just grow on the open stomata. Okay, they are not entering, without entering within the stomata, because whatever the food material or whatever the sap they are required, they are taking from that point only, and they are not entering within the plant body. Okay, so you should carefully remember this peculiar example of the powdery mildew fungi. Now see, hydathodes are another structure, are more or less permanently open spores at the margins or at the tip of the leaves. Okay, it is not like the stomata which are going to open during the daytime and going to close during the night time, but in opposite to this stomata we have the hydathodes. These hydathodes are permanently open, and these hydathodes are generally present on the margins or at the tip of the leaves, right? And they are connected to the veins and secretes the droplet of liquid in the process of guttation, which are also called as the guttation drops. Okay, so in the process of guttation there is a direct uh, evaporation. Now we cannot say evaporation here, it's a direct excretion of the water through the water droplets. Okay, when it comes in the form of water vapors, then we call that particular process as a transpiration. But if the water is coming out of the plant in the form of liquid, then we can call it as a guttation, and this guttation occurs through the hydathodes. So hydathodes are the openings within the plant leaf, generally present at the tip of the plant, and they are readily able to take out the water from the plant in the form of liquid and throw that particular water out of the plant body. And this liquid water, once it comes from the plant body through the hydathode opening, this particular process is called as the guttation, and whatever the drops are created in this process is called as the guttation drops. Now this particular guttation drop which is created at the plant surface, they are containing the various nutrients, because this water is coming from the plant body, and plant body contains the many type of the nutrients, and these nutrients were also present present in the droplets, water droplets, which are coming out of the plant, which are also called as the guttation drops. These guttation drops are nutritious in nature. Okay. Now see, some bacteria use these pores of mist to enter into the leaves. Okay. So whatever the hydrathodes openings are there, which are open permanently, these openings are utilized by some of the bacteria to enter within the plant body. But there are few fungi seems to enter within the plant body through the hydrathodes. Okay. So not only bacteria, but there are some examples of the fungi as well, which can enter within the plant body through the hydrathodes. Now, some bacteria also enter the blossoms through the nectarathodes or the nectaries, which are similar to that of the hydrathodes. Okay, so there is another structure is there which is very similar with that of the hydrathodes. It is called as the nectarathodes, and these nectarathodes can also be utilized by the bacteria to enter within the plant body. So when we say about the natural openings, the stomata structures are famous there. Then there is another structure which is called as the hydrathodes. These hydrathodes are also provided very good means to enter within the plant body naturally. Okay. Now there is a third category which is called as the lenticels. Okay. Now these lenticels are the openings on the fruits, stems, and the tubers. Okay, as you can observe here, the lenticels are there on the stem. These lenticels are the natural openings on the plant. Okay, they may be present on the stem, they may be present on the fruits, or they may be present on the tubers. Okay, now these lenticels also provide a very natural way of entering within the plant body, that they are filled with the loosely connected cells that allows the passage of air. Okay, so basically gaseous exchange or the air exchange can occur through these particular lenticels. Now during the growing season, these lenticels are typically open, and even so the relatively very few fungi and the bacteria can penetrate the tissue through them. Okay, so lenticels are also utilized by few of the fungi and the bacteria as a means to enter within the plant body. Then they can growing and advancing mostly between the cells, causing the infection internally within the plant body. So lenticels, just like the stomata and the hydrathodes or the nectarathodes, are the another natural opening within the plant body, and these lenticels will allow the bacteria or the fungi to enter within the plant body and create the infection within the plant body. Okay, now see, most of the pathogen that penetrates through the lenticels can also enter through the wounds as well. Okay, so whatever the pathogens which are using the lenticel as an entry to grow within the plant body, they can also enter within the wounds. Okay, because wounds are also the opening within the plant body, and these pathogens can also use the wounds just like they use the lenticels. Okay, now the lenticels penetration is being apparently less efficient and the secondary pathway. So you can say the lenticels is the last preferred way to enter within the plant body when it comes with the other types of the method, just like the stomata or the hydrathodes. Okay, because the lenticels are not that much easy to enter from. Okay, so basically the stomata way of entering or the hydrathode way of entering, it's easy when it compared with that of the lenticels. All right, so we have studied here the three different types of the mechanism through which the pathogen can enter within the plant body. Okay, the very first was the direct penetration. Okay, in the direct penetration, the cell wall or the cuticle is broken by the pathogen. Then there is a second way of entering within the plant body is through the wounds. Okay, whatever the wounds are created through the biotic and abiotic factors. And then lastly, there are the natural openings like the stomata, then there is a hydrathodes, then there is the lenticels. So these types of the natural openings can also be. So this is all about this topic. Okay, thank you very much for watching this video. Please like this video, share this video with your friends who are studying the botany, and if you haven't subscribed to the Botany After channel yet, please subscribe to the Botany After channel for UPSC examination. Again, thank you very much for giving your time. See you in the next video lecture. Thank you.